Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jashodananda Brajarinda Ranjana. Jashodananda Brajarinda Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radho Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radho Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnu Padapans Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 15, text number 7. Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke. Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha. Manakshastan Indriyani. Prakritistani Kashati. Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke. Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha. Manakshastan Indriyani. Prakritistani Kashati. Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke. Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha. Manakshastan Indriyani. Prakritistani Kashati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Purport. In this verse, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord eternally. It is not that he assumes individuality in his conditional life and in his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. It is clearly stated here, Sanatana. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattva, and the secondary expansions are called the living entities. In other words, the Vishnu Tattva is the personal expansion, and the living entities are the separated expansions. By his personal expansion, he is manifested in various forms, like Lord Rama, Nrisimha, Vishnu Murti, and all the predominating deities in the Vaikuntha planets. The separated expansions, the living entities, are eternally servitors. The personal expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual identities of the Godhead, are always present. Similarly, the separated expansions of living entities have their identities. Mamailamsho jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana manakshastani indriyani prakritistani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. So Krishna is contrasting the previous verse where he spoke about the liberated living entities, when he said, Yad Gyatva Nadivartante Tadamama Paramam Mama, that those who go to that supreme abode of the Lord never return to this material world again. However, in this verse, Krishna is speaking about the conditioned living entities who are struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. So he is making a contrast between the eternally liberated souls and the eternally conditioned souls. So Prabhupada states in the purport that the identity of the living entity is clearly given. It is not that the living entity is separated or individual now, and that later on, when he becomes liberated, he becomes one with the Lord. That is not verified in this verse. In this verse, Krishna states that the true identity of the living entity is that he is eternally, sanatana. He is eternally the part of the Supreme Personality of God. Mamailamsho jivaloke, jivabhuta sanatana. Mama eva amsha, Krishna says. Mama means my, and amsha means part. Krishna is saying the living entities, the living entities who are jiva loke, jiva bhuta, who are living in this conditioned world, who are the separated living entities known as jivas. And we certainly know in the Vedic literatures that the jiva souls have been referred to innumerable times. So these living entities, these conditioned souls, the jivas, are eternally, sanatana, parts of the Supreme Personality of God. Mamaivam sho. They are the parts of me, Krishna says. Nowhere will you find Krishna stating that the living entity is sometimes my part and sometimes the whole. Indeed, it's contradictory language to say that the part becomes the whole. The part is the part, the whole is the whole. And in spiritual understanding, this is eternal. The living entity who is the part of Krishna is eternally part of Krishna. First of all, it is also not that the whole becomes divided. Madhvacharya explained that the whole cannot become divided because the soul cannot be cut. You cannot divide the soul into little pieces by cutting it. It is not possible. There's no way to divide the whole. And neither is there any way that the infinitesimal part becomes the infinite. That is, by definition, impossible. So it is clearly understood that the living entity who is infinitesimal, is clearly different from the infinite Supreme Personality of Godhead. The infinite does not divide himself in order to create the infinitesimal. Rather, the infinitesimal living entities are eternally infinitesimal parts of the Supreme. So, the living entities also have an identity of exactly what is their role as their separated parts of Krishna. And that identity is that they are eternally the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna Swarupoi Nitya Krishna Das. Nitya Krishna Das. The living entities who are in this material world or in the spiritual world or wherever they may be, their eternal form is that of the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prahlad Maharaj, he stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam that, my dear Lord, I am eternally your unmotivated servant, and you are eternally my master. I have no other position than to be your servant. You have no other position than to be my master. It is eternally like this. And he is perfectly satisfied that the Lord is his master. And the Lord is perfectly satisfied to be the master of such a wonderful devotee like Prahlad Maharaj. Now, the servant should not serve the master for some gain. It is not that the servant will come to the master and serve him with the idea to get some fruitive result for his service. This is not a servant. This is a businessman. Just like Prabhupada has often stated, the servant serves the master because he's getting paid. If he were not to get paid, he would stop serving. He is not serving the master out of love, and the master is not the master of the servant out of love either. He is simply paying or employing the servant for some time, and when the servant no longer has any value to him, he lets him go. This is the nature of a businessman and his employees. But the real master is not a master just because he needs something from the servant. After all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not need anything from us. He's perfect and complete. Om Purnamada Purnamidam. He's completely perfect in all respects. He does not need anything from any of us. After all, he's eternally in complete bliss. Satchidananda Vigraha. His form is of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. And that blissful nature is eternally increasing as well. He doesn't need us. But, Anandamaya Vyasat, his enjoyment can increase when a perfect relationship is established in love. Krishna doesn't need your offering, a fruit, flower, or water, or whatever. But he needs your love. He wants your love, because he does not have that. And that is the master's desire. And the servant's desire is to offer his love and service to the Lord unconditionally, without any motivation or fruitive desire for fruitive result. Prabhupada has given the example of businessmen who think, after they have heard in the Bhagavad Gita class, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam, hey, this is good business. I offer a leaf or a flower or some water to the Lord, and He will fulfill all my desires. After all, the Lord says it is His pastime to fulfill the desires of the living entity. And Krishna has been fulfilling the desires of the living entity since time immemorial. So the businessman thinks, this is good business. I offer a leaf or flower, fruits and water, and I get back unlimited returns. But the Lord is not interested in such kind of servants who are businessmen, who come to Him with material desires to fulfill and worship Him in that fashion. Many people come to the Lord with that idea in mind. But the Lord is not interested in such servants. Of course, He encourages them too in hopes that they come forward and try to expand their service more and more. He grants them their desired benedictions. But the Lord is really interested in servants like Prahlad Maharaj, who serve Him out of love, not with any other motivation. The Lord wants the living entity to come to Him in pure, loving devotion and say to the Lord, my dear Lord, I want nothing from you but transcendental loving service. We have to ask benedictions. If we have to ask benedictions of the Lord, we should do it in the mood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhakti rahaituki twai. Lord Chaitanya said, my dear Lord, I am not interested in any amount of wealth. Nadanam, najanam, I'm not interested in any number of followers. Nasundarim kavi, I am not interested in beautiful ladies as described in the flowery languages of the materialists. I am only interested in your pure devotional service. And it is not that I'm even interested in liberation, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Mama Janmani Janmanishwari, life after life, birth after birth. Bhavatad Bhakti Rahaituki Tvai. I want your causeless devotional service in my life. Birth after birth. And nothing else. The Lord Nrisimha asked Prahlad Maharaj, after Prahlad Maharaj pacified him with prayers, after he was very angry and killed Hiranyakashipu, Lord Nrisimha said, now you may take whatever benediction you like from me. Prahlad Maharaj did not fall into that trap. He said, my Lord, I am not interested in any benedictions from you. I simply want to be your servant. And you are my master, I am your servant. That is perfect in itself. There is no need for benedictions. But if you do want to give me a benediction, and I must ask for one, then I ask that there be no material desires within my heart. That all my material desires be gone, so I may serve you in pure loving devotion. That is very good benediction. To be freed from all material desires, from fruit of result, from fruit of desires. I will serve the Lord, or I will serve His devotee with the desire to get something out of it. That kind of mentality is called fruit of activity. And it is very detrimental to pure devotional service. Pure devotional service is anya bilashita shunyam jnana kamadana. Freedom from all material desires for sense gratification, either karma or jnana or yoga or anything which is not pure bhakti yoga, pure devotional service of the Lord. And Prahlad Maharaj was the best devotee. Lord Nrisimha said, you are the best of all my devotees, because you're giving such a good example of pure devotional service, without any desire. Even when Prahlad Maharaj was being attacked by his demoniac father, Prahlad Maharaj was simply thinking of the Lord. He wasn't even afraid of the sinful attacks of the demons. He was so fixed in devotional life. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj was called the best servant of Lord Nrsimhadev. So we have that identity, to be the servant of the Lord. The Lord has his identity, to be the master of all the living entities. And that is what the Sanatana Dharma is all about. Sanatana Dharma means the living entities serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Lord and Master of all creation. That is the eternal relationship between the living entities and the Lord. And that relationship is wonderful. And anyone who has ever tasted that relationship, even for a short while, cannot give up the nectar of that relationship. Service is so blissful that one simply prays to the Lord, please grant me your service. Because he's so satisfied in that devotional service, he doesn't have any other desire. That is a real devotee. One may ask why one is not satisfied. Probably it is because one is not in the mode of pure goodness, and one is within the mode of passion where he's filled with many desires, or mixed with passion, filled with many desires. And therefore one is not satisfied. But the symptom of one who's in goodness is that he is satisfied in his condition. And in pure goodness, one is completely satisfied, serving the Lord and with no other idea whatsoever. He just wants to serve Krishna. And when he has that service, he's fully, 100% happy. Even in his distressful condition in the service, he's happy. Even when he's engaged in service and it's very stressful, or it's sometimes disturbing, he's happy doing that service. He just wants to serve Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur once said, that unhappiness I feel, or that distress I feel in your devotional service, let that be my happiness. He was very realized. I'll go on with the paragraph here in the purport. As fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, the living entities also have fragmental portions of his qualities, of which independence is one. Every living entity, as an individual soul, has his personal individuality and a minute form of independence. By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul. And by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. In either case, he is qualitatively eternal, as the Supreme Lord is. In his liberated state, he is freed from his material condition, and he is under the engagement of transcendental service unto the Lord. In his conditioned life, he is dominated by the material modes of nature, and he forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As a result, he has to struggle very hard to maintain his existence in the material world. Srila Prabhupada speaks in the purports where he speaks about the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, that actually the devotee who is fully absorbed in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not have to worry for his material requirements of life. And even though he has no interest in material opulence, he is not attached to material opulence in any way, the Lord blesses him with these things. The Lord blesses him with these things. They are gifts of the Lord. And those gifts no one can take away. Whereas opulence which is given to the devotee opulence which is given to somebody out of karma is at risk of being taken away by the same karma or by the modes of material nature. At any moment, it can be all lost. But that which is given to the devotee by the Lord is eternally there, because the devotee knows how to use it for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever you give to a devotee, he will use in the service of the Lord, and he will not use in his own sense gratification. That is the symptom of a pure devotee. He simply wants to use everything in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada has given us such a wonderful project in the Mayapur project, whereas we can... How many times I have to do that? Whereas we can use unlimited amounts of money in the service of the Supreme Lord in the Mayapur project. So let the millionaires come forward. I'm sure the audience is filled with millionaires out there. And we will use it all in Krishna's service. Unfortunately, there aren't that many millionaires yet. We're expecting eagerly for some to appear. Huh? Just now coming. Yes. Now, Prabhupada says in the purport here that by misuse of independence, one can become a conditioned soul. He's eternally a fragmental portion, wherever he is in this creation. And he has his minute independence, wherever he may be. That's his eternal quality, minute independence. And when he uses that minute independence to become desirous of sense gratification, as if he were the enjoyer and he were the controller, he comes to the material world to live a life that Krishna is speaking here. Manakshastani indriyani prakritistani kashati, to struggle. To struggle hard with the six senses which include the mind. We all know how we are struggling with the senses and the mind. I don't even have to tell you how this is happening. You know it. You know it perfectly well. Whenever the sense objects come by, immediately the senses are following. And the mind becomes very attached to all these sense objects, and one forgets completely the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the first thing that happens when you become bewildered by sense desire. You forget completely Krishna's service. That is the symptom of the material struggle for existence. And just see how all of the people in the material world are forgetting Krishna's service all the time, because all they think about is their own service, or the service of their family or friends or society or nation or humanity or whatever. They forget completely the service, because all they are thinking about all day is sense gratification, subtly or grossly. Gross sense gratification or subtle sense gratification. That's all they think about. Therefore, the living entity has to struggle very hard in this material world, but not the one who's fully surrendered to serving Krishna in pure love. Because Krishna personally takes care of him. Personally. You have nothing to worry about. That's Krishna's promise. He will take care of you. But if you are attached in this material world, filled with sense desires, and you're not remembering the service of the Lord 24 hours a day, then you will struggle very hard in this miserable material existence. Hard struggle for existence. And it is no fun. It is no fun struggling hard in this material world. That we already know. So therefore, the best thing for us to do is to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. and not when we're old. Nowhere is it stated that you should surrender to Krishna only after you're old. You should surrender to Krishna right now. Komaracharet pragyadharman bhagavatani ha. Dulabha manasa janma tadapi adruvamartadam. Prahlad Maharaj said, now. He even said at the age of 5, start surrendering to the Supreme Personality of God and engaging in devotional service to the Lord. Because this human form of life is very rare. It is very rare and very valuable and very meaningful. Because this human form of life is the way to connect ourselves to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We've got to surrender to Krishna now, not later. Don't wait until you're 50 and then you can take sannyas. If you haven't even surrendered to Krishna up until that point, when it comes time for 50, you won't take sannyas. You'll think, what, 50? I'm still young. Let me enjoy another 10, 15 more years. The point is, you've got to surrender to Krishna now. Right now, every minute of every day, surrender unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and be happy. That is the message of Prahlad Maharaj. That is the desire of Lord Nrsimhadev. That is the desire of Srila Prabhupada and the disciplic succession. So please do it and be happy. Harikesa. Question, yes. Oh, Swamiji has a question. You first.
Can I place a bit on the microphone so that everyone can hear?
Oh, sure.
It's not really that I think my questions are so important, but it's easier for the audience to hear your answer for the question. I was listening to your lecture with 2 sets of ears. One was totally enlivened, especially what is between the ears and the heart. Another was asking a question, and I will ask this question. It seems for devotional service from your lecture there are 2 causes, or let us say driving forces. One is motivation for my own benefit and one is love. Only if I act out of love I can come really to the platform of service which you were talking about, this unconditioned service for Krishna. Now our modern ISKCON...
It's not exactly that you have to have the love first and then comes the service. The service and the love come together. They're connected.
Yeah.
You serve first out of duty. And after serving for some time out of duty, gradually you develop love. When you develop love, the service becomes more natural, more spontaneous. And then you serve more, and then the love increases, and you serve more, and the love increases. So you can't really separate the two like that. Which you certainly know better than me.
Thank you for clarifying. I think it's very important. You are aware that our modern ISKCON devotee who has the opinion that I tried this just doing out of duty and then hoping to come to the platform of love, but didn't work. I have to go on with some type of material motivation, otherwise it doesn't work. What would you say to such a devotee?
Yes, Prabhupada also spoke about such devotees when he discussed in 1977 about establishing Varnashram in ISKCON, so that such motivated devotees can at least have a place by which they can engage in some duty, offering the fruits of their results. Karma Yoga is like that too. Offer the fruits of your results to Krishna and satisfy Krishna in that way. So go out, make your business, become successful, and offer the results to Krishna. But if you don't offer the results to Krishna, then you're not successful. Yes?
I wasn't going to ask this question, but Satchidananda Maharaj has kind of like raised a point which leads into the question that was on my mind. And he was talking about...
Gotta watch out with these swamis when they have questions. It gets heavy.
He was talking about one section of motivated devotees, and I, listening to what you said, was thinking of some another section that I recently was having some contact with. There are some persons I know, because these are actual persons, who they spent some period of time away from ISKCON and did whatever they wanted out there for some years, and then they returned, older and wiser, and as a matter of fact, even a bit condescending to the devotees who just went on with their devotional service within this movement, because they've learned many things from outside, and they're relaxed, and so on and so forth. And I don't know, they seem to also think that they got sense gratification out of their system that way, and now they're quite advanced as a result of that. And so
very dangerous.
It seems, like another side of Maharaj's question. It's like that's the karma side, and this is the jnana side.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. To leave ISKCON is dangerous, first of all. Because of all of those who have left ISKCON, how many came back? Okay, 1 or 2 come back. Okay, 5, 10 come back. And now they're condescending. And they're thinking themselves very advanced because they have lived the life in the world, and now they've made it back. Let's see how long they last, first of all, with such an attitude. Because Krishna may encourage them for some time, but he doesn't like his devotees to be proud. And he will cut down that pride. And when the pride is cut down, then their real advancement will be tested. And then we'll see if they're really advanced. In any way, a really advanced devotee never thinks of himself as really advanced. And if you come in and you think, I'm so advanced, you know you're going to have trouble. What would you answer? You're much better at answering these questions than me.
No, actually, honestly, because I have 2 persons in my mind. One of them I met when I was in Mayapur. And, it's, for me, something I was just pondering.
And also this idea that you learn more in the material world than you learn in ISKCON. Not at all true.
But I would be very interested in because one part of my question was, what about those devotees who, as you were saying in your lecture, we all know the struggle with our minds and our senses. So they remain in ISKCON, they struggle, they even have maybe some problems, but they just stay within the movement. And
Krishna's watching that. Krishna's watching. He's watching you struggle. He's watching you have a hard time, and he's watching what you do with that. And he sees if you succeed. He sees if you fail, and he sees if you get up and try again. He sees your heart. He sees how much you care about him, and how much you want to serve, despite your problems. And he's giving you credit for that. And credit is building, and credit is building, and credit is building. And one day Krishna will come and say, thank you very much.
it just seems to be like some kind of sneaky shortcut.
It's not a shortcut at all.
They think that's what they think it is.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't think Krishna accepts it.
We'll see. We don't have to condemn such persons, but we can see. We can just say, we'll see. What should I do? It's 7 o'clock. Well, I don't have time to record that. But you all have to eat. You're hungry. No, you're hungry. You look hungry. Everybody's skinny.
answers.
Okay, so we'll go until 7:15. Okay, then you can have artik until 7:45, and then eat. Right? Okay, so you can tell everybody that, whoever's managing. You know? He knows. Right? That's my schedule now. 7:15 I stop. Right? Okay. All right, you had your hand up first.
Devotees who have material desires and worship Krishna. And you say that Krishna don't like this devotee. But
I never said Krishna doesn't like the devotee. I said Krishna does not accept him as a pure servant. Like there's the pure servant, and then there's the servant with desires. And Krishna accepts specifically the pure servants like Prahlad Maharaj with great love. And the others he accepts and encourages, but he doesn't really, it's not the topmost thing. I advise you to read in Srimad Bhagavatam the prayers Prahlad Maharaj spoke to Nrisimha after the demigods offered their prayers, just before Lord Nrisimha left. It's the last chapter in that series about Lord Nrisimha. It speaks a lot about this point. Lord Prahlad talks about this very person who is not pure servant, and the Lord does not like that as much.
And another question. You say that when the disciple he serves his master, and he wants something from him. But when he has the mentality, I want love for Krishna,
That's okay.
that's okay.
Yes. But love of Krishna is not a commodity like something you can buy in the store. It's your heart has to develop that feeling for the Supreme Lord. Now you may pray to the Lord, please give me pure transcendental love for your lotus feet and loving service at your lotus feet. That should be your prayer. But not like it's a commodity. You know, if I get love of Krishna, then all my desires will be fulfilled. Thinking that I'll actually fulfill these desires. It's a fact that your desires will all be fulfilled, but not your material desires, your spiritual desires. Understand the difference?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Bueno, yo hablo español, pero van a traducir. Mi pregunta es muy cortita. ¿La naturaleza material altera la personalidad y la individualidad del alma?
Otra vez.
Si la naturaleza material altera la individualidad y la personalidad del alma.
Can you understand what he's saying? He's talking so loud into the microphone, I can't understand it.
Can I hear one more time?
The material nature changes.
La pregunta otra vez.
Personality of the soul, something misunderstood.
Distanzo.
Mi pregunta es si la naturaleza material altera la individualidad y la personalidad del alma.
He's asking if the material energy changes the individuality and the personality of the soul.
That's what I thought he said.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand it when he said it the first time. I couldn't understand it the second time, and I don't really understand it when you translate it. All right, I'll give it a chance. The material nature does not change the personality of the soul, it covers it. It is not that the soul transforms into something. Rather, it is covered by the material nature, and therefore you cannot understand. Is somebody translating to Spanish? Oh, okay. I didn't know that. And therefore, when the transformation takes, the covering takes place, the consciousness transforms, but the soul himself does not transform. But his consciousness transforms from pure spiritual consciousness to contaminated consciousness. Okay?
You explained that persons who have material desires are encouraged by Srila Prabhupada that they should work in Dharma and should make business.
I didn't just say make business, but making business is a good thing to do, because everybody needs money. Or because, see, if you can make business, we were talking about this in my room before. If there are some people who are actually Vaishyas in our movement, they should make nice businesses and hire other Grihastas. And in this way, the Grihastas' economic problems can be solved. So we spoke about that also in Aventura last June. So it's very good that those who are expert at making business should make good businesses and hire other Grihastas.
My question is this to be seen as karma yoga? Or
No, if you do it in devotional service, under the direction of the spiritual master, with the idea of offering to Krishna your work, your home, your family, everything you're doing, your wealth, you offer it all to Krishna. That's pure bhakti. But if you're just simply working and enjoying your life as you're doing it, and then you just give some donation to Krishna at the end, that's karma yoga. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Manasageho Deho Yokichimor Apilatuam Bhadananda Kishore. I offer my family, my results, everything I have, I offer it to you, my Lord.
I wanted to know if the item, if someone makes business and the item with which he is making business, like for instance if you distribute books or some spiritual...
If you distribute books, that's wonderful.
Yeah, but
Prasadam, that's wonderful.
Makes the item, this activity spiritual?
What?
If the item which one is making business makes this activity spiritual.
The item.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. You can be in complete Maya and just try to distribute books too. The thing that makes it spiritual is that it's under the order of the spiritual master, it's within the process of devotional service, and you're doing it to please Krishna, the spiritual master. So, you distribute prasadam. The prasadam is spiritual. So therefore you're in good shape. The book is spiritual. You're in good shape. All you have to do is do it with a proper consciousness, and you're in perfect condition. What would you say? Yes? What would you say? Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing especially spiritual about fighting in the battlefield, but it's not propitious.
Yes. It's all, you do it for Krishna, and then everything becomes perfect. Okay? Yes?
I personally, I'm convinced that Krishna, or God,
we know him as Krishna here, so you don't have to tell us.
Okay, say that it is Krishna who led me through my life all the ways. I was brought up in the Methodist church, and there they also say stay and don't make other experiences. But I had to go out of there, and I have been going with away with Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. I had experiences there, and I don't want to miss them now. So I think Krishna led me there and there and there. So
But not for everybody.
No, but
For some.
For some.
For some. We're all part of that some. We can ask any devotee here in this room what they've done before they become devotees, and they'll give a similar story. I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and now I'm here. So we like that. You're taking your pilgrim's progress through your life, through various experiences. That's very nice. But once you're here, there's no need to go back.
But to become devotees, means that they already had sufficient experiences in material life, isn't it?
Not necessarily. One may join rather young and idealistic. You know, when this Krishna consciousness movement started, it was without any opulences whatsoever, extremely austere and extremely idealistic. And after a while, some realized that that wasn't enough to propel them back to Godhead. So therefore they went out to get their experiences. We didn't even have knowledge in the beginning, you know. There were practically no books, a couple of books. And we never read them anyway. We were too busy saving the world. We forgot to save ourselves. Ah, yes, the good old days. And I'm glad they're the old days, too. Right?
I don't really understand what you mean by this. You just said it wasn't enough to propel them back to God. It's idealism or
Idealism is a sentiment. Idealism is a sentiment, like all sentiments. And one of the symptoms of sentimentality is that temporary. You can change your sentiment. Today I have one sentiment. Tomorrow I can have another sentiment. Somebody looks at me cross-eyed, my sentimentality can change. So sentimentality is very dangerous. Flickering like this. You have to be on the platform of knowledge and realization, not sentiment. Idealism is good in the beginning because it brings you. It doesn't let you see the millions of faults. I mean, if any of you, even one who's gone through the Bhakti program, if any of you had gone to, let's say, the Brooklyn Temple in 1971, like where I was, and you saw the way we acted, you would be amazed. It's so completely weird. Like we would go to a preaching program, and we'd have one van. And in those days, the vans were quite small. They weren't even maxi vans like we have nowadays. And there would be 25 devotees in that van. And half of them would be girls, and half of them would be boys. And it would just be all over the place. And you'd be in that van like that for an hour driving to the preaching program. Now try doing that nowadays. See how far you get. That's just one of many examples. We were wild, I tell you, we were wild. $22 in a yellow VW bus. Congratulations. You survived it, you're still here.
You explained that Prahlad Maharaj was so deeply absorbed in thoughts of Krishna that he even wasn't aware that there was danger for him, and consequently there was...
I didn't say he wasn't aware there was danger for him. Certainly he was aware. He knew there was danger, but that just simply made him concentrate more on Krishna.
So that actually there was no danger, he was always protected. So
yeah, it was still dangerous, but he was protected.
So my question is, can we adopt this, or can we follow in his footsteps in our modern times?
No, because he didn't put himself purposefully into that danger. If you're not purposely putting yourself in danger, if you're not thinking, now, I'm protected by Krishna, I can do this and I can do that, no problem. But if by force of circumstances you're put into danger and you depend on Krishna, Krishna will protect you. But if you go and put yourself in that dangerous position thinking Krishna will protect you, he may teach you a good lesson.
What about the dangers which come, for example, natural catastrophes, breaking down of society, those things which are discussed?
You know, I think it was in San Francisco. I remember we were in a park and there were a lot of eucalyptus trees there, so maybe it was San Francisco. In 1975, I asked Srila Prabhupada on the morning walk, I said, Srila Prabhupada, what will happen if there's a war? How will we be able to make and distribute your books? It will be very troublesome and difficult. Then Prabhupada answered me the next day, in the evening, early morning, by writing a purport in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is about the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas. He said, just like the Vishnudutas are protecting Ajamil, we should know it that the Vishnudutas will protect the devotees. He said, sometimes the members of the Krishna consciousness movement ask what will happen in times of war or catastrophe. That was me. And he said they should not worry. The Vishnudutas will protect them under all circumstances.
Is Prahlad Krishna Bhakta or Vishnu Bhakta?
He's actually a Bhakta of Vishnu. He stays in Vaikuntha Loka. I know, he's also Krishna Graha. I would still answer the question the same way. He's also a Bhakta of Krishna. He's fully aware of Krishna's presence.
Swami says that Lord Nrisimha is actually a form of Krishna.
Yes? So is Vishnu.
Well, he said more direct. Except divided Krishna as a form.
Yeah, we love Nrisimha. We worship him all the time. Well, come on, say what you want to say. You trying to make me trouble or what?
Microphone.
Shinidev, Krishna Ramchandra Shinidev, yeah. He backed off. Okay, on that note, I'll get myself out of hot water here and end there. Have a nice Artik. Have a nice feast. Have a nice Nrisimha Chaturdashi. Be happy. Hare Krishna.
Don't forget those remaining.